The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's wonderful to rise in this new year in this new chamber. It's not wonderful to rise to speak to an opposition motion brought forth by the member from Carleton that is, in my opinion, useless, if I can be so direct. It's an opposition motion that doesn't speak to the needs of everyday hardworking Canadians, to middle-class Canadians at home, and their concerns, ensuring that they have a bright future for themselves, for their kids, ensuring that we make life more affordable for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. It does nothing to that. The priorities and reading this text on this motion does nothing. Let's speak to the record. We as a government in the last 3.5 years have cut taxes for 9 million middle-class Canadians. The opposition party, the Conservatives, have voted against that. We as a government raised the guaranteed income supplement by 10% for our most vulnerable seniors. They as an opposition party voted against that measure. We as a government brought in the Canada Child Benefit, which makes 9 out of 10 families in Canada better off by $2,300 on average. They as an opposition party voted against that. We expanded or enhanced the Canada Pension Plan. That'll benefit generations of hard-working middle-class Canadians. They, as an opposition party, voted against that. We asked the wealthy to pay a little bit more. They've done well. We all know that. We asked the wealthy to pay a little bit more. They, as an opposition party, voted against that. We cut the small business tax rate to 9%, a saving of $7,500 for SMEs from coast to coast to coast to coast, and they voted against that. We've created 800,000 new jobs, a majority of full-time, majority of private sector, the lowest unemployment rate in 44 years. And they, what do they say? Nothing. Do they have a plan? No. What services will they cut? We know what Doug Ford is doing, cutting services for university students, making education less affordable for hardworking families in Ontario. That is the Conservative philosophy. That is what we have. Shame on the Conservatives. Shame for not bringing out any ideas. We are growing our economy in 2017. We led the G7 in 3% growth. This year we'll come in at 2% and change. Where's your plan? No plan. On our fiscal finances, the finance minister met with the rating agencies. They affirmed our AAA credit rating here in Canada. They said our fiscal finances, I think the word was solid. Solid. Canada's finances are in great shape. We're doing things to benefit Canadians. For hardworking, low-income Canadians, the ones that we really want to help, the ones that we really want to pull and get into the middle class, we introduced the Canada Workers' Benefit. What did they vote? They voted against it. Mr. Speaker, we need to speak about records. And our record on the economy, as someone who's worked in the financial markets for 23 years, both in New York and in Toronto, but someone who grew up working at a McDonald's and a donut factory and at Zeller's and a pulp mill and grain elevator, who comes from the middle class, or I would say even the low middle class, because my parents are immigrants. We are doing things that are lifting people, children, families out of poverty. And the Conservatives, what did they do? They voted against everything. Everything helping families in my riding. Over 15,000 kids and their families receive the Canada Child Benefit in my riding of Vaughan Woodbridge. Over almost $5 million a month. The Conservatives, what do they do? They voted against it. Now I'll go to my text, or a speech that I like to submit today. But, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to leadership on the economy, leadership on the environment, we're doing and we're acting. And that is what Canadians want. They don't want platitudes. They don't want hot air. They want us folks here that have been elected and have the privilege of serving to demonstrate leadership, that we leave a better environment for our kids and a stronger economy and a stronger future for all Canadians. So, Mr. Speaker, I welcome all opportunities to remind this House and all Canadians of the work this government is doing, because we are very proud of it. We are building a stronger Canada, a better Canada, while continuing to reduce the federal debt to GDP ratio. In fact, the work our government is doing is attracting praise from all around the world. The IMF has hailed Canada as an economic model for the world, with the IMF's managing director, Christine Lagarde, saying that the world needs more Canada. Now, I know the opposition party likes to comment and state facts of the Fraser Institute. But how about this? How about we just listen to the residents of our ridings and what they're saying? Why don't you go back and speak to them instead of some think tank?
They don't want a carbon tax.
Okay? Why don't you ask them what they want to do on the environment? They would like us to put a price on pollution. And they would like us to make life more affordable for our residents, and that's exactly what we're doing. So let's talk to our residents. Let's talk to them about our tax cut for 9 million Canadians. Let's talk to them about the Canada Pension Plan enhancement. Let's talk to them about rolling back the age of eligibility from 67 to 65 that the Conservatives brought in. Let's talk to them about that. Just last year, the OECD gave us positive recognition to the government's historic investments in infrastructure and its first ever national housing strategy, as well as the expected positive impacts of the new employment insurance rental sharing benefit. Just last week, U.S. News and World's Report 2019 Best Country Rankings put Canada at #1 for quality of life, something we should all be proud of. That's because a strong economy is about people and ensuring that all Canadians have the tools to succeed. From the beginning, this government has put people at the heart of its plan for economic growth. It's one thing to grow the economy, but we must grow it in an inclusive manner, and that's what we're doing. That's why we've lifted 300,000 kids out of poverty. That's why our national housing strategy, which again the Conservatives voted against, is lifting hundreds of thousands of people out of poverty and giving them a secure place to stay and to live. And we're doing that. In my riding alone, in 2019, we will open a new building, 162 units of low affordable housing for our residents. And there's much work to be done, and we'll do it.
We came to government determined to help Canadians who are working hard to better benefit from a strong, growing economy, and that's exactly what we did. That is why the first step this government took was to call on the wealthiest of Canadians to pay a little more in order to bring down taxes for the middle class.
Hardworking Canadians at home today, maybe some in Ontario are home today because it snowed so much, but most of them are out working.
Through the middle class tax decrease, more than 9 million Canadians now can save more or invest or buy what they need. To help parents raise their children, the government created the Canada Child Benefit, a more generous benefit, a non-taxable benefit for those families who need it the most. Thanks to the CCB, 9 Canadian families out of 10 will receive a more generous benefit than in the past. Mr. Speaker, this benefit has lifted thousands of children out of poverty through tax decreases and steps like the CCP. A typical four-member family will receive approximately $2,000 more per year to help raise their children, save for the future, and contribute to the growth of the economy. These funds are changing the lives of families. For example, it helps them provide nutritious food for their children or buy new winter boots.
Canada Child Benefit is transformational. We brought it in. It's helping families every month in ridings across Canada, including the ridings of the opposition parties. And we have to acknowledge that. It's lifting hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty. It's helping families. And that's something we all need to be proud of. And I wonder, are the Conservatives going to cut the Canada Child Benefit? When they talk about, are they going to do what Doug Ford's doing? Cutting services to hardworking Ontario families? I hope not. And they won't. Cet argent change la vie de ces familles.
Furthermore, in the fall of 2017, the government took steps to help low-income workers and brought in the Canada Workers Benefit in the 2018 budget. The CWB is an improved, enhanced, more generous and more accessible benefit than the working income benefit. Since January 1st, the CWB has put more money in the pockets of workers. It will also encourage a greater number of people to obtain and maintain employment while providing real assistance to more than 2 million Canadians who are working hard to join the middle class.
We're working hard, and these low-income Canadians, we're going to help them with the Canada Workers Benefit. If you're earning about $15,000 right now, you'll get, I think, roughly about $500 more when you file your income taxes. We will lift them and have them join the middle class. We will ensure that we take care of all Canadians and our most vulnerable Canadians. That's why when we brought in a 10% increase to the GIS, in my riding alone, over 2,000 seniors received the increase to the 10% GIS. Almost $847 on average. It's real and it's helping. Our measures have helped Canadians from coast to coast to coast, and we're going to continue to build a strong, inclusive economy for today and tomorrow.
After many years of work, retirement can be a reward. Yet in Canada, for many seniors, especially for women, oftentimes retirement involves financial difficulty. We believe that that is unacceptable. That is why we increased the guaranteed income supplement for single low-income seniors, which will provide these seniors, the most vulnerable seniors, greater financial security and peace of mind. We also enhanced the Canada Pension Plan, an historic step. Through an enhanced CPP, which will be phased in this year, Canadians will have more money when they retire, and they will be less worried about their future, and they will be able to spend more time with their family.
Ensuring Canadians have a secure and dignified retirement is something we ran on in 2015. And Mr. Speaker, we did several things. First, we reversed, which was a badly planned in Switzerland, when the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, raised the eligibility age for OAS to GIS from 65 to 67. Now, if you're a middle-class Canadian, you're a bricklayer or a carpenter, and you've worked all your life, and you're looking forward to retirement, and your body's got a little bit of wear and tear, well, going from 65 to 67, that's asking a lot. And that was unfair. That was unfair what the Conservatives did, and we reversed it. That would have been putting people into poverty. That would have actually been dumping it onto the provinces if you actually looked at the way the system worked. And we reversed it. We enhanced the CPP for future generations. Something great. We increased the GIS. Again, we said we would do that, and we did, and we acted.
Through cooperation with the provinces and territories to enhance the CPP, and thanks to the government's decision to bring the GIS eligibility age back down to 65 years instead of 67, more Canadians will be able to spend their retirement in better conditions. Mr. Speaker, thanks to the some 30,000 infrastructure projects that have been approved since 2016, we are also building strong and resilient communities. Most of these infrastructures are already underway, which is creating good, well-paying, quality jobs for the middle class. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, through many of these economic measures, consumer confidence now is at historic levels. With more money at their disposal, Canadian consumers can be confident in their financial situation in the future. And that is also true of businesses. Since 2015, net profits after tax for Canadian businesses has almost doubled, which means that businesses and Canadians now have more resources to invest, stimulate economic growth, and create good jobs. We recognize that small businesses are the driver of our economy. Out of all private sector jobs, 70% are in small businesses. And that is why we reduced their taxes last year. In January 2018, the government reduced the tax rate for small businesses from 10% to 10%, rather, and this year we brought it down to 9%.
Woodbridge in the city of Vaughan, we have over 12,000 small businesses employing over 200,000 workers, hardworking Canadians. And yes, we've reduced the small business tax rate from 11% to 9%. Yes, we brought in the fall economic statement, which I know the NDP doesn't like. I'm not sure what it likes these days, to be honest with you, which is going to help firms invest in capital, invest in machinery to make their firms more productive, more competitive. Just like when I visited Alps Welding in my riding, which is building components for pipelines in Kazakhstan, building components for pipelines in Canada, building components for pipelines in Ontario. That, Mr. Speaker, that is building components worldwide, building components for Alberta. I'd like to take any of my opposition members, come to Vaughan Woodbridge and I'll take you there. The great work being done. And you know what, Mr. Speaker, their biggest complaint to me was, their biggest issue, they can't find enough welders. Their order book is full, they're hiring, they're expanding, and they can't find enough skilled labor. Okay? They're exporting to Alberta, to South Central Asia, to the United States, Ontario, Quebec, and they're a Canadian success story owned by a Canadian immigrant family. And that's something we need to be proud of. My honorable colleagues can taunt and tease, but you know what? This family's built something I'm proud of and they're proud of, and they worked hard doing it. And I don't think that's a laughing matter, and nor should my colleagues taunt and tease, especially from the opposition side. We use the word with my kids that are 6 and 8 to grow up sometimes, and sometimes I think the opposition members need to grow up. C'est pourquoi nous le taux des impositions combien.
The combined federal, provincial, territorial tax rate is 12.2%, by far the lowest of all G7 countries. The results of these steps are clear. The Canadian economy is strong and growing, and it is one of the strongest in the G7. There are more good, well-paying jobs for Canadians. Over the past 3 years, Canadians have created more than 800,000 new jobs, which has pushed unemployment to the lowest level in more than 40 years. Consumer confidence remains high, and corporate profit margins are solid.
Well, Canadian workers are doing well, but we know that anybody that's looking for work in Canada, that we want to make sure that they can find that job. So investing in skills training, investing in better data collection. I understand that the former party cut Stats Canada, cut the long-form census. But we brought it back. Why? Because we want to ensure when Canadians are looking for work, we have that information that we can give to them so they can find it. So we want to make sure that the programs that the government entered into with the provinces are working well. It's too bad that the Conservatives don't believe in science and data collection and information.
Consumer confidence remains high, and corporate profit margins are solid, which paves the way to other investments, which can then create more interesting and better paying jobs for Canadians.
Economics took for granted. 2018 was a challenging year, especially with regard to the recent tax changes in the United States and concerns about what's ongoing global trade disputes might mean for Canadian businesses. Last summer, the government heard from a number of business owners and business leaders that there is strong interest in making investments of the kind that can position businesses for long-term growth and create good, well-paying jobs for Canadian workers. We heard from many businesses who expressed relief when we announced our new trade deal with the United States and Mexico, because securing that deal really does help when it comes to being able to confidently invest for the future. La coopération entre le Canada et les États-Unis.
The cooperation between Canada and the United States is not new. We have a long-standing relationship, and it's a very constructive one. The whole world envies us this relationship. The ties between our people, our governments, and our economies have produced positive results. We know how to work together, and we will continue to offer real results to people over the coming years. The agreement we have just signed with the United States and Mexico reaffirms the importance of our trading relationship with our neighbors.
Because we know it will help support good, well-paying middle-class jobs right across the country. At the same time, we know that we need to do more to protect and maintain Canada's competitive advantage. And that, Mr. Speaker, we did that in the fall economic statement with the accelerated investment incentive, a measure that will now allow firms to make investments in Canada at a lower marginal tax rate than firms investing in the United States. Yes, call it the Canadian advantage, but it's there. It's 4 points lower. It's going to encourage more investment, more creation of good, middle-class jobs in this country. We've created 800,000 jobs since we came into power in October 2015, majority full-time, majority private sector, and we're going to continue doing the job that Canadians sent us here to do. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Question.